Hello, I'm Donald Leggett. Welcome to the latest London South East CEO interview. I'm joined today by Bert Monro, CEO at Cora Gold. Cora have just announced an update on the Definitive Feasibility Study for the flagship Sanankoro Gold project in southern Mali. This builds on a successful scoping study released on January 2020 and a $20 million term sheet for funding from Lionhead Capital announced in June 2020. Bert, it's great to see you again. Hello, how are things with you?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me on.
You're looking good. Your broadband's looking incredibly stable this morning.
That's good.
Let's start with a rough plan for the DFS and to scope and build the Sanankoro Gold project in southern Mali. Could you just put all that in context for us, please?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, in January 2020, we released a scoping study. So that's essentially your first pass economics on a project. It showed loosely the fact that we've got lots of economic potential there. On the back of that scoping study, we've obviously gone away, and our plan is to obviously try to massively expand our resources. So we're currently going through a large drilling program, and we're in the midst of releasing plenty of results at the moment. And then the DFS is really pulling together, I guess, both the initial look at the project from the scoping study and what we expect to be as a growth in resources coming in the coming months into a bankable study. So your DFS, definitive feasibility, should be plus or minus 10 to 15% document. It's a study which enables you to then go out and build the project and finance the project to build it. So for us, it's obviously the significant study we're working towards, and obviously looking to complete it in the first part of next year.
So intriguingly, this morning you announced the contractors who've been appointed for the Sanankoro DFS. So what does that tell us about the state of readiness as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the biggest part in a way of, and the biggest and longest part of getting ready for the DFS was drilling and building towards building out your resource. As well as part of that drilling, we had already done some geotechnical work. We've been doing lots of metallurgical test work in the background. So lots of aspects of the DFS had been going on in the background, which we're building towards it. But I think significantly, we've appointed, obviously, in our mind, 3 world-class groups. Senet, which is part of DRA Group, is a preeminent African engineering group, which has been building multiple gold mines across Africa and importantly in Mali specifically. You've then got Epoch on your tailing storage facility, an extremely important part of the project these days, and then also CSA on both the resources reserves and the mining side. So again, they've got a wealth of Malian and broader West African experience in terms of dealing with these projects. So for me, really important to get 3 really well established and really well experienced groups who have got lots of relevant experience working on gold mining projects in Mali and across West Africa.
It pretty much says to me that you think this is going to happen, and this is going well.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the scoping study showed great potential. It showed a high IRR project, and I think what we came out of it knowing was we needed to build up a bigger resource base, and with a bigger resource base, could show the potential for a really exciting, much larger project. And I think what we've seen in the drilling results over the last few months have been some really fantastic drill results. I mean, just some amazing grades and widths coming through. So, our expectation is that should come through positively in a resource update in the coming months.
Great. No, I've been noting those great results coming through from you. Lionhead Capital funding, is that still in place for the same $21 million as it was previously?
So what we put a brief note in the press release about it, just saying that we've got ongoing discussions to align the term sheet with the new plan. So initially in January last year, obviously quite a lot of water under the bridge since January last year, both globally, but also on our specific project. We had said we'd try and finish a DFS by the end of this year. We've now pushed it to the first half of next year. Obviously, a number of factors to do with that, but not least actually a switch from heap leach to CIL. So heap leach is one style of processing, CIL is another style of processing. For smaller projects, heap leach is quite attractive because you can get into production quite quickly and quite cheaply. But the downside is you only generally get 65 to 70% recovery of your gold. So if you're anticipating having a larger deposit and a longer mine life, switching to a gravity and CIL processing route, you should be getting into the 90% high to mid 90% recovery of gold. And obviously, you don't want to leave 25, 30% of your gold going off into the waste. So for us, the switch to CIL is both, I guess, on the back of doing a lot of metallurgical test work last year, which we released the results of, which showed quite what good recovery we got from gravity and CIL processing. But also, importantly, there are the successful drilling results we had this year, giving us the confidence to engage in what we think will be a longer life project. So in line with that, we're obviously got ongoing discussions. I can't say any more than that with Lionhead, but to align their term sheet with the new plan and new strategy. I think what I obviously can say and just reiterate is, I mean, Lionhead Capital is associated with our largest shareholder, so it's essentially an investment firm which is linked with our largest shareholder, who have been extremely supportive historically for the project. So they are very keen to see the project built and the project taken forward. So those discussions are going well, and obviously when we can update everyone on the progress, we will do.
Fantastic. That's a very full and interesting answer there. And CIL, does that take a larger capex, and is it slightly slower to roll it out, to build
yeah,
it?
so traditionally, a CIL project has a larger capex to heap leach, but I suppose putting that in context, in terms of the construction period, it's not necessarily any longer. And I guess one of the benefits actually is your ramp up period to production is a lot quicker. The nature of a heap leach is it needs to leach for a long time on the heap. So obviously, actually, your time from moving into sort of operations to actually getting cash flow is actually longer. But yeah, one could expect obviously a larger capex with CIL. But I think just to put that into context of our project, we had very good gravity recovery. So you have up to 40% gravity recovery from the metallurgical test work done to date. And we also have a very quick leach time. So we're getting over 90% recoveries in a 4-hour leach time. So both of those factors have positive implications for the capex compared to other potential sort of fresh rock CIL mines. And I think the oxide nature of the ore as well should lead limited or minimal crushing at all. So those are both positive implications around the capex as you move forward.
So southern Mali, it's a well-known area for gold deposits and gold mining. Let's take us back to the scoping study in January 2020. Remind us what actually got Lionhead involved at that point. Tell us how interesting the study was.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, at the time, the Quirk family were our largest shareholders. So the Quirk family are behind Lionhead Capital. At the time, Cora basically was an exploration company and it had a great set of permits in southern Mali and also in West Mali, over 1,200 square kilometers, probably sort of top 10 largest sort of landholders in terms of exploration ground in West Africa. We had focused in on Sanankoro. We had brought out a maiden resource, which was based on shallow oxide material, so free digging material near surface. And then we completed a scoping study on it. The scoping study at a $1,500 gold price, so a fair bit below where we are now, showed over 100% IRR, over $25 million a year free cash flow from the project. And off the back of a fairly, I guess the resource is about 260,000 ounces. So for us, the limiting factor on the scoping study was really the amount of gold we had in it. So the great takeaway, the two takeaways were, we've got some great levels of economic gold here where we've got the potential for a high margin gold project, really positive. The resources aren't as big as we'd like them to be. Let's go away and drill it properly, and let's go and get a much bigger resource on the project and look to build a feasibility study on the back of a bigger resource.
And that's just what you did. So tell us about the resource growth and how that feeds into the DFS. What did you do subsequently?
Yeah, sure. So we committed to a really large drill program. I mean, we committed to doing at least 35,000 meters of drilling. And we're going to drill close to 40,000 meters of drilling as it stands, which is a huge amount of meters. Historically, for the maiden resource, we had only had about 18,000 meters of drilling in the maiden resource of 260,000 ounces. So at the moment, we're just looking to complete this 38 to 40,000 meters we're currently doing at the moment. So significantly more than we did historically. The plan for that is both to step out and increase the total resources, but it's also to infill drill your resources as well. So without getting too technical, you need to mine reserves, but you discover resources. So we at the time only have inferred resources. So we need to convert our inferred resources to measured and indicated resources, which then as we complete our feasibility studies will be converted to reserves. So it's a combination of stepping out the existing inferred to grow the total number of ounces, but then also infill drilling all of those ounces to make sure that we convert them to measured and indicated resources, which can then in turn be converted into reserves as part of the feasibility study. So it's a lot of work to be done. Team on the ground's been working flat out on it for probably 5 months now, and obviously we've been releasing results as we've received them throughout the last couple of months. So we've had some great results and obviously plenty more to come.
Okay, talking of the plenty more to come, what comes next in terms of the project plans and news flow, and what's the time frame for the development of the project through to completion and becoming a mine?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, over the next month to 6 weeks, we should have plenty more drill results to come. And then obviously on the back of that, we'll be updating our resource as quickly as possible on the back of that. So in terms of significant news flow, we've got, excuse me, we've got obviously drill results and then an updated resource. And then obviously we're then all hands to the pump in terms of delivering the feasibility study as soon as possible next year. So obviously there's lots of work going on in the background around engineering studies and geotechnical studies and hydrological studies and other work. So there's lots of feasibility study work going on concurrently. But I think the most exciting news probably for shareholders will be, I guess, the second half of our assay results, which are still to be released really over the next month or so. And obviously those are ongoing discussions, as we said, with Lionhead about aligning their financing term sheet with the slightly updated plan, which is really exciting as well.
So plenty more good news to come, you think?
Well, we hope so. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I've been reading in the Financial Times about the rise of Islamist militias in Mali who've been targeting artisanal gold works. Do you ever come across these people? Is this something that you should be worried about in Mali?
Yeah, when you say, I wouldn't say glibly, when you say come across these people, thankfully, no. No, when I'm on site visits, no, I don't. I mean, where we are is in southern Mali. It's largely been peaceful. I always say it, but I mean, in over 30 years of commercial gold mining in Mali, none of the operating mines have had a day's production interrupted for politics or security issues. It's a vast country, probably 2,000 plus kilometers in length. Generally, the issues with Islamist extremism is way in the north of the country. All the miners generally land in Bamako, and we all drive south. And then, unfortunately, the issues are further north in the country. Not to say security isn't an extremely important factor for us. I mean, we have a weekly call, and it's always front and center on every weekly call, just making sure that we're aware of any potential security issues changing in security situation in our region or nationally. And whether we're correctly equipped as a business to mitigate that and make sure our staff and all of the consultants and contractors are safe working for us. So it's certainly not something we take lightly. But I think, fortunately, where we are operating, we haven't had any significant issues, and we haven't had any change in the security context in which we've operated for the last number of years. I don't know if it makes you feel any happier, Donald, but I mean, I've been out to site 3 times in the last few months. So yeah, I mean, look, I'm obviously happy to travel there and go there. So that's all great. And hopefully be going out again in the next month or 6 weeks or so. Great,
Bert. Nona, you've put my mind at rest. My final question, here we go. Same question, but in a different way. Why should investors invest in a junior gold miner like you? Because you can get juniors partnering with one of the larger miners. That's another way of making that play. Or indeed, you can invest directly in one of the larger gold players. So why you? What makes you the best use of resource for an investor?
Well, I suppose talking specifically about Cora, I think we're going through a period of hopefully phenomenal growth. You're doing arguably the largest drill program of any company in West Africa as we speak. We've still got nearly half the assays to be released probably. And then that will be culminating in a resource update. So for me, that's obviously a phenomenally exciting thing to be doing. And I feel very lucky to be able to be driving that forward as a CEO. Obviously, then that's building into a resource update, into a feasibility study. And all of that's culminating together to hopefully make Sanankoro look a very different beast to what it currently is now on the back of the scoping study. So for me, specifically with Cora, we've got an amazing, I guess, flow of news coming up, and obviously potentially a number of significantly transformational updates for the business over the next 6 to 9 months. And then obviously, hopefully moving into construction and obviously having, massive support from our largest shareholder in the form of term sheets and other equity support. So I think that probably stands us out potentially from some others in the junior space in terms of the momentum and the support we've got. Look, obviously everyone's got to manage their money how they manage it. I'm not here as an investment manager, and I can't give someone their portfolio advice. Obviously, it's always good to have a balanced portfolio, but I think we offer something very compelling for investors, and I think we give very good exposure to listed gold equities. But obviously, yeah, look, if you're looking for yield, we're not going to be offering yield as such. Not really a dividend from Cora for a couple of years. So if you're looking for dividend exposure, obviously you've got to go to a major probably, or certainly a mid-tier who's paying a dividend. But if you're looking for a growth story and a story which is offering a huge amount of development potential with significant milestones over the coming months, I think hopefully we're someone you should be having a look at, and obviously always open to questions or discussions about that.
Bert, that was a terrific investment summary. Thank you very much indeed for speaking to us today, and particularly for taking the time out on the busy morning of an announcement. Bert, thank you so much for taking the time. For more free company information on Cora, please go to the Cora Gold pages on London South East, and do follow London South East on Twitter. We have our tag is @London South East, or register on London South East YouTube. Just put that into Google and you will receive alerts to interviews just like this one. Thank you for watching, and as always, please do stay safe.